Hello everyone. So there are areas of suboptimal clinical practice nationally regarding the management of patients receiving acute non-invasive ventilation. And so I wanted to share with you how we've introduced simulation training into our NIV service. The British Thoracic Society started conducting national NIV audits in 2010, but the national data sets were showing an increase in mortality from respiratory cause. And in 2013, this peaked at 27%. We looked at our local mortality data, and the top line of the table there shows our inpatient plus 30-day post-discharge mortality rate was 18.1% before we opened England's first specialist emergency care hospital. After the opening of the new hospital, our mortality rate has been significantly lower at 10.4%. The increasing mortality nationally has prompted a national confidential inquiry into patient outcome and death. An independent case review showed that management of NIV was less than good in 73% of cases. And poor care included understanding of vital signs, arterial blood gas analysis, and inappropriate ventilator management. In addition, only 28% of patients were having pre-NIV oxygenation within target saturation range, and there was a delay in starting NIV in 27% of patients. So the NC-POD study prompted the British Thoracic Society Quality Standards, published earlier this year. And there are 6 quality standards. And Standard 2 states that all staff who prescribe, initiate, or make changes to acute NIV treatment should have evidence of training and maintenance of competencies appropriate for their role. In Northumbria, staff who have been responsible for the practical application of NIV have always completed annual NIV training and competency assessment, but last year this was enhanced with the introduction of simulation training. Our small group training combines theoretical knowledge and practical application with challenging real-life cases. We assess essential aspects of good clinical practice. We give the staff the clinical history for the patient and ask them to assess and treat SIM-Man. The SIM-Man operator is concealed, but adjusts response depending on the staff's actions and decision-making, and communicates with the facilitator in the room via an earpiece. Staff are facilitated to follow our local trust guideline and ask for early escalation of care decisions. Our trust categorises respiratory failure as a time-critical event and therefore limits controlled oxygen trials and reduces delays in starting NIV. Staff can practice key assessment skills, including auscultation, listening to different volumes of breath sounds and different added sounds in different areas of the lungs depending on the clinical presentation of SIM-Man. They can also practice interpreting vital signs and practice palpating the radial artery and sampling and interpreting blood gases. They can also practice key treatment skills, including insertion of nasopharyngeal and oropharyngeal airways for low GCS and suction to clear respiratory secretions. They can practice key aspects of a successful NIV, including communicating with acutely unwell patients via the SIM-Man controller and mask fitting practice. Staff can then practice choosing appropriate ventilator settings based on SIM-Man's clinical presentation and appropriate alarm parameters for patient safety. Ventilator settings include pressures, backup rate, inspiratory times, IE ratios, and oxygenation. Staff can then assess SIM-Man's response to ventilation by looking at tidal volumes, unintentional leak, and patient ventilator synchrony. Staff can then practice responding to anticipated and unexpected clinical changes in GCS and vital signs, including hypotension, desaturation, and changes in respiratory rate. Staff will then revisit arterial blood gas sampling and analysis and advise further management. After each practical session, key messages are discussed as part of the debrief session, including assessment findings and treatment choices following the NIV guideline, aspects of airway and ventilator management, understanding vital signs monitoring, and sampling and interpreting arterial blood gases. As part of the debrief, staff are also asked to ask and read through and sign a detailed competency assessment that covers all of the theory and all of the practical aspects of the simulation session regarding NIV management. This is so that we have an accurate training record of what has been delivered, as well as a competency assessment for all the staff who are therefore responsible for the practical application of NIV. This training is revisited annually using different case studies and including any issues that may have happened recently during actual real-life clinical practice. Last year, after we introduced the simulation training to the NIV service, we asked for some feedback from the staff who attended the training. They all said that they enjoyed it and they found that mixing theory and practical training benefited their learning. They liked working in small groups with varied amount of experience. They found it a supportive environment and they would like more regular simulation training. As a faculty, we found that compared to our pre-existing NIV training, this offered a more realistic experience of challenging real-life cases, and it allowed us to assess the staff's response to anticipated and unexpected clinical change in SIM-Man. And it's also allowed staff to practice clinical assessment and treatment skills, decision-making and problem-solving, all within a safe environment. Thank you.